I put respect on.
Oh, you're gonna wish you get a point from him too?
No, our good friend David Penzer's here.
All right.
Hello.
How are you?
Welcome back, Dave. How are you?
Good. Could you hear me?
Hell yeah.
Loud and clear.
Well, good. I've had a StreamYard issue for a while, but I think I fixed it.
No, you're good. We got you.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I just sent Guy Evans a text with a prayer sign emoji on it.
Well, it seems like everything's worked out because you're here, David, again to talk about Volume 2 of Sitting Ringside, as if Volume 1 wasn't enough.
I know. 2 fucking books, huh? Who'd have thunk it?
Now, how come you didn't get Brian Myers to write the foreword to Volume 2?
Right in, Dave.
How come I didn't get who?
Your best friend, Brian Myers.
Oh, fuck Brian Myers.
Right. Now, I just want, last time you were on the show, just so for a little clarity, that you said this.
And tell Brian Myers to blow me.
And I did. I told him.
So I'm pretty consistent then.
Which makes the books so great.
Here's the thing with Myers. I like Brian Myers. Here's the thing with Brian Myers, right? So when him and Cardona first came into Impact, they're huge wrestling fans. God bless them. And they were like, "Oh my God, David Penzer, we grew up watching you." And it's like I didn't like let that get to my ego, but it was like, "Oh, it's nice to see that they're professional, respectful." So then they did my podcast like 1 week, and then like 3 weeks later, the other one did it. Well, then somehow they fucking found out that I use Wikipedia to read the person's bio so I could write down the questions I want to ask them. And they like turned heel on me, both of them. And I'm like, well, what the hell are you going to use? I don't have an Encyclopedia Britannica. I mean, there's one place you go to get a rundown. I wasn't asking questions off of Wikipedia. I was using the information provided by Wikipedia to remind me about that person's history so that I could ask questions that I thought that I wanted to hear the answers to. And after that, man, it hasn't gone good. So I think it's all in good fun, but once that Wikipedia thing hit, that whatever respect they had for me went down the fucking drain.
Well, I'll be seeing Brian this Friday, so I'll be sure to relay all the great messages that you've just.
You know what? I like Brian. Brian's a good guy. He likes to give me a hard time. This is the wrestling business. Trust me, I've met a lot bigger assholes in this business, tons of them. Than Brian Myers. He's on a scale of 1 to 100. He's somewhere around a 48. So it's fine.
Oh, he's like half an asshole. That ain't bad.
Yeah, half an asshole. Yeah.
Write that down. We got the name of the show.
Now I gotta know who's a 100.
You got to read the book, the last 2 chapters. You'll find out.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
I love it.
I will tell you that he worked for TNA.
Ooh.
Did he sell you any gold?
I love Jeff Jarrett. I don't have nothing to say about Jeff Jarrett.
So do we. I've said it before, and I say it out. He's one of the nicest people. He's one of the only people who, if you send him an email about trying to get him on the show, even if he can't do it, he will at least respond and let you know that he's not available. It's something that Jeff Jarrett doesn't need to do, but it just speaks volumes of the level of person that he is. Volume 2.
I was just doing another podcast, and they asked how Jeff was able to get Jim Cornette and Vince Russo to work together. And I said, only Jeff Jarrett could have made that happen. There's nobody else in the world that I could think of that could have gotten those two to put any differences aside, at least on a temporary basis, to work together. That's just the type of guy he is.
That's awesome. Yeah, checks out. So, David, you're joining us tonight because we have Volume 2 of Sitting Ringside. And if you have not picked up the book yet, if you go to davidpenzerbook.com or just throw in Sitting Ringside Volume 1 or 2 on Amazon, it'll come up and you can order it. You once again partnered with Guy Evans, and this time we're in a post-WCW where you're kind of doing a little bit of everything. Was that always the plan after you finished Volume 1 because you've had such an illustrious career in the world of pro wrestling?
It wasn't so much the career, it was the extras. Like I had the whole entire XWF business plan. Nobody's ever seen it before, except for obviously the people in charge of the XWF at the time. The beginning is very XWF centric, everything you never know. I was involved in all the facets of putting that together, booking, talent relations, editing, live events. So we go through the booking, the business plan. You have how much everybody's getting paid. We don't hold back, for doing it. And if people like that kind of stuff, man, this is perfect. And so that was a lot. And so I think Guy thought that it wasn't so much the story, but it was the extras. How do you follow up the last Nitro and then dive right into the XWF business plan and then Flair's last match format that very few people have seen, which is in there and stuff like that. So and some TNA format. So I think it wasn't so much the story; it was the accompaniment company bonus material that would have been too hard to just throw into one book. It would have made the book like, I didn't speak about Encyclopedia Britannica. So whether that was a good decision or a bad decision, we'll see. But I'm getting a lot of positive reviews so far, knock on wood. So, I think in some ways this one's even more interesting to me, at least, because, while the first one, if you read it, was, about my struggles to live my dream and how I shouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do that. And I did, and I kept and then, all the ups and downs in WCW until the waves came crashing down in Panama City. This one's about how do you keep the dream alive when that all goes away? How do you make a living when you're not working full time for anybody? But I didn't ever have, other than the XWF, I didn't ever again have a full time job in the pro wrestling business that could pay my bills. It was always part time stuff. So how do you do that? Had to all the different things I had to do to nickel and dime and make a living, put it together just so I could stay doing something I love. And I think that's an interesting part of this next book.
Oh, sorry, my microphone was off. It's there's a lot going on over here, David. I'm sorry. We're down a guy. We're down a guy tonight, so I'm not used to doing all the shit he does.
Oh, I got you.
So I'm definitely going to throw him under the bus because he's not here. HK. For those not familiar with XWF, though, that was a Jimmy Hart vehicle, right? And your and the book kind of goes over your conversation with Jimmy Hart and how he kind of offered you something down in Tampa. Can you take us a little deeper into that without giving too much away? Because of course we want you guys to get volume 2 of Sitting Ringside.
Yeah, well, there was nothing else but WWF. That was it. There was nothing else. And even if you say, okay, well, there are indie shows, there weren't indie shows like there's indie shows now. You could go to an indie show in LA or New York City or at the Hammerstein or Chicago, and they're flying 10, 15 guys in from all over the country, that are headliners in different various promotions and putting on dream matches and stuff. Well, they didn't do that back then. An indie show was a local show. So if you're, and I talk about in the book, if you're doing a local show in Atlanta, an indie show, you get a Mr. Wrestling #2, you get a Tommy Wildfire Rich, maybe Disco Inferno for the newer Nitro fans. And you fill it up with undercard with indie guys. So you don't have these indie super shows like they used to. So really there was nothing going on. Unless you were, over in your area at one point where you could maybe work on the weekends, doing a couple indie shows. So, no fan fest. It was a totally different environment. So, we're just trying for something. And Brian Knobs and Greg Valentine and Jimmy Hart. It was originally Randy Savage was involved, but he was gone before I got involved. Hooked up with some infomercial people. One of them being one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington, and tried to start a wrestling company. And, we talk about all the players and, all the money guys and what they brought to the table. And, one of them was like, porn satellites sites in India. Somebody laughs, but, there was a fortune to be made in porn in India off of satellites back in the day, back in 2001. So anyway, one guy was a big what do you call him? The phone booth guy, like a phone booth. So, I mean, I hope he saved his money because there's no phone booths anymore. But and then, you had a former guy who was the head of NFL properties, which is in charge of all their merchandising. So it was an interesting dichotomy of people. Plus, you had the wrestlers. It's always interesting to be in a room with Jimmy Hart, Brian Knobs, and Greg Valentine, the grouch he is. And we just tried something, and we brought in, great talent, and we tried something. We had a theory of what we wanted to do. We executed the theory with basically legends and newcomers. We focused a lot on lightweights, which really became the X Division not so long afterwards. In an ironic kind of twist of fate, the XWF, and people always ask me, do you think that's why they called it the X Division? I don't think so, but anything's possible. But and nostalgia, and we put together 5 episodic shows with the top talent we could get, and we shipped it around, and as the story goes, nothing ended up happening, but I go full into the storylines we were establishing. We were going to go from there, why we didn't bring certain guys in, why guys were waiting to see what happened. It's if you're interested in, the lost promotion, I call it, you might want to pick it up just for that. Like I said, business plans and the formats of the shows are in the back. There's so much value in these books. I'm not just saying that because it's me. I'd be saying that if I was just reading them as a fan and somebody else had put them out with all these formats and business plans and internal documents. I'm a mark for that kind of stuff. So
yeah, no, I have volume 1, and all the extra content at the back is just as important as the story that you tell in the first volume. So if there's more of that in volume 2, I will definitely be picking.
Oh yeah. There's a ton of like that. And I like to say that that's what sells the books. Let's face it, I'm not I was going to say I'm not Hulk Hogan, but nobody's Hulk Hogan. But, I'm not Buff Bagwell. I don't know, whatever, what I mean. I mean, while it's an interesting story, I think if it was just my story, maybe a few people would read it. But I think that they buy it for the cool extra bonus stuff. And then if you read the story, because Guy Evans is such a great writer, he actually makes it interesting. And, my perspective on the business and on life is Guy has a way of bringing that out and going to places that many people may never have thought of, as far as what my opinion of this was. What was your opinion of that? What were your thoughts on Don West and Mike Tenay? And we go into depth with that. And it's a really fun read, I think.
I was going to ask you how much of that is determined by you in terms of how much extra content to story ratio. Is Guy an integral part in that process too? Is he just that good at what he does?
Well, Guy, the extra content is mostly stuff that I had saved,
right?
That I forgot I had. I was cleaning out my desk a couple of years ago, and so that's that. But as far as telling my story, basically what we do, without giving away the secret, I don't know if it's a secret, but basically how we do it is, we talk on the phone probably every day for months and months, or at least 5 or 6 times a week. And he picks the topic. Tell me about working with Don West and Mike Tenay. Tell me about being the tour manager in a tour bus crisscrossing the country with Roddy Piper. Tell me about, the Benoit situation, where, it's pretty well known that because we socialized with him in a group in Peachtree City, Georgia, with other wrestlers and their wives, I wasn't surprised at what happened. I knew immediately. I just didn't know, the specifics of it, but I knew whatever happened in that house was from the people that lived in that house. So unfortunately, and I really went back and forth about telling that part, but a lot of people that I've been in contact with have really appreciated it. So, he says, tell me about how you ended up coming back to Impact Wrestling or TNA, or, tell me about your airbrush tattoo business and, how that came about and how that intersected with wrestling several times in ways that I never thought could be possible. So, so he just gets the best out of you, and then he writes your story in a wonderful, in a very entertaining way. He has an entertaining way of writing that would be way better than if I were telling my own story, quite frankly. But it's all for me. It's just written in his style.
Now we're on the line with David Penzer at David Penzer on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and davidpenzerbook.com or Amazon. Just throw in Sitting Ringside. I'm sure volume 1 or 2 pops up immediately, and they're both there to order. So definitely get them. If you go through davidpenzer.com, there's all sorts of
book.
Oh, book, excuse me. My apologies. DavidPenzerBook.com. There's all sorts of, you can get autographed volume. You can get extras thrown in. Let me ask you, with the extras, you mentioned Brian Knobs. There's a very famous Brian Knobs picture. Did you include that in the extras?
I do not. I did not. I didn't. It didn't. Never thought in my mind that I would make the cut. I've seen that image in person more times than you could ever imagine. And I would never want to, even the people that I talk shit about in the end of the book that we were alluding to earlier, I wouldn't want them to have to see. I've seen the picture, but it's worse in person. At least in the picture, you could prep yourself for it before you look down. Brian has a knack of doing that pose. You're walking to a dressing room, in an empty dressing room, and he's there hiding, behind the door. You open up the door and you run into that.
So 2 books down. Is there anything left in the professional wrestling life of David Penzer for a third?
No, there isn't. And I'm cool with that. I'm doing a couple fan fest in March, and but other than that, I don't expect anybody to call me. I remember when Jade Chung announced that she was leaving Impact. I was like, my phone kept ringing off the hook. You going back to Impact? You going back to Impact? And I said I'd be shocked if they called me, and they didn't. I don't know who they got, but 58-year-old ring announcer in 2025 doesn't really work. In a company where you're trying to draw younger fans and, drive merchandise and stuff like that. The business has gone towards women a lot, and I don't have a problem with that. They do, a lot of them do better than the guys. And you got to roll with the changes. I was lucky enough to stay in as long as I did. My story could have easily ended right after WCW. And that's why I think the part 2 is actually more interesting than part 1. Because part 1, most people know, I ended up the ring announcer, Nitro, never missed a Nitro, that kind of stuff. It's just how I got there and the hurdles and stuff. Part 2, a lot of people don't know some of the things that I did to try to pay the bills and keep myself in the business. And so yeah, it's not that I don't expect anything to happen. And if it doesn't, then I am totally 1,000% okay with it. Scott D'Amore gave me a great send-off that we describe in the book at the end. And when I left Impact December of last year, not this past December, but the December before that. And I couldn't ask for a better ending.
Now, let me ask you this, because I don't think a lot of people think about this. And you tweeted about this the other day, so we're going to put you on the spot, Mr. Penzer.
You can't put me on the spot, brother, but try.
We're going to have fun with this then. You mentioned how it is difficult for ring announcers to do the 1-syllable intros, which is why Gary Michael Capetta says this is Sting, and why you later on to he is Moose. What would you say for Cope?
I don't know. I was thinking about it, and Cope is even harder. Sting is not as hard. It's 1 syllable, but it's also like you could extend Sting. You really can't extend Cope. It ends with a vowel, and it's like it's Cope. It's not. It's really, really hard. I feel bad. Look. Am I going to lose sleep over any of that? No, but I thought I'd put an interesting tidbit, because Gary was when I started working at WCW, Gary, pointed out you need to find, if you're going to do well at this, you need to find unique ways around, certain 1-syllable names, because it's tough. And so, whether it's the extending their gimmick in a name like Rated R Superstar, it's awkward. It's awkward. I remember that when I went back to WCW, one of the reasons I did that with Moose was because my son, who lived with us at the time, he's since moved out, thank God, knock on wood. my adult son, he would go, I'd come home from the taping, he goes, how was you introducing Moose? And he was making fun of me. And I'm like, look, it's a hard one to do. And, you could do Moose really quickly, and that doesn't do him justice. Or you could do Moose and sound like you're a cow that's having a baby. So I would say he is he is from wherever, Orlando, Florida, wherever. He is this champion. He is Moose. And I tried not to do like this is Sting, where it was just this is Sting. I tried to like, he is this. He's from here. He weighs this, and he is Moose. So I tried to make it different. But yeah, a lot of that came from my son making fun of me. I was getting paranoid after a while.
Is there anything that didn't make it into Volume 2 that hindsight you wish had?
I'm sure there'll always be a couple of things. I will tell you this. Mike Tenay does the foreword and tells a great story. I had forgotten the story, but darn, I remembered it as soon as he brought it up. It's probably the best story in the book is from Mike Tenay, a rib that they played on me in Dayton, Ohio, and him and Bobby Heenan and Mean Gene Okerlund. So, but I'm sure there's things that I'll remember and I'll say I should have thrown this in. There was stuff for Volume 1, but nothing major, nothing huge. Just little things that a lot of it was questions that people asked me when I was doing podcasts and stuff, promoting it. And, I would get off the podcast and say, maybe I should have thrown that in, but it wasn't anything major.
Did you ever work with Christopher Cruz?
I did, but God, is he still out there, or have I just successfully blocked
he's on Facebook, and he fucking hates George South and Ricky Morton more than anything in the world.
Oh, he's insane. I don't block anybody on anything. I don't care. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what team you like. I don't give a crap. I don't care if you like me or not. It's not going to upset me. But he got to me, man, because he started getting personal. He started DMing me and saying on Facebook and saying, I have your real estate license number. Does that worry you? And I'm thinking, I don't know what you could do with that, but yeah, I don't want to. He's crazy. Fucking guy lost his mind. He was a nice little guy, wrestling fan, happy to be, a part of the business like I was, and he lost his freaking mind. It's and it's almost entertaining until he's bothering you.
Yeah, no,
if there's a way that I could see his stuff. Without being a part of it or being following it, I would do it just because he's so insane. It's actually entertaining. I don't know how somebody gets like that, but yeah, I feel bad for the guy actually. Something went wrong somewhere along the line, and you only live once, and if that's the way you want to live, hey, it's your life. But don't include my real estate license number in it.
I'll tell you where it went wrong for him. He didn't order Volume 1 or 2 of Sitting Ringside at penzerbook.com.
He wouldn't take a free one if I put $100 bills around it. You know what? I wouldn't do that anyway. So it's all good, man. It's all good. No hard feelings. I just feel bad for him. The guy's really insane. There's some people that are off, but then he's really off the deep end.
That sounds just like the wrestling industry.
Yep.
Hey, I see that you have Emil J coming on.
We do have him in about 45 minutes. He's joining us.
So funny story about that. My adult kids are wrestling fans. One of them is a big GCW fan. The other one likes some of the stuff. And so the WrestleMania weekend was supposed to be in Tampa. Then COVID killed it. And then it was in Tampa the next year. And it was all outside and people had to wear masks and stuff, but at least they were doing shows. And my kids wanted me to get them passes to go see the Collective, all those indie shows that Brett Lauderdale and other promoters do. So I called Brett, who turned out he was a huge fan, which helps. And he's like, I used to do the David Penzer voice. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like the most humbling thing you've ever told me. I said, could you do it? He goes, not anymore. My voice changed. But so I said, hey, man, I know this is a lot to ask because, there's a lot of value in these tickets, but could y'all get my kids, decent seats, passes to the Collective? And he was like, yeah, but you got to come out at one of our shows and and address the crowd. I'm like, all right, that's cool. So he wanted Emil to introduce me. I was like, no, this guy's the star of the show. Most of these people don't even know who I am. And he's like, oh, they all know who you are. Well, I hadn't really watched Game Changer Wrestling, and I didn't really understand at that point what it's about. So I go out there and I welcome the crowd and good afternoon, Tampa Bay. Welcome to GCW. My name is David Penzer. Who wants to see some wrestling? Man, one kid clapped, and one person clapped, and it was my kid. The kid who didn't clap, I later punished. But so I'm so glad I decided I got to put him over, because after I bombed on a massive scale, because nobody knew who the hell I was, nobody wanted to hear me, nobody wanted to see me. They didn't. That's the type of wrestling fan base they have. So at least they were that much happier to see Emil. So ask him about it. Yeah, could you imagine if he'd have gone out and then they'd introduced me? It would have been worse. Both of my kids wouldn't have clapped. I can't explain to you how awkward it is. All my entire career for 30 years, I go out, whether it's 100 people or 10,000 people or 20,000 people or 500 people, and I say, good evening, Tampa Bay. Welcome to, whatever. Who wants to see some wrestling tonight? And everybody cheers because they're there to see wrestling. And these guys, they don't cheer when you ask them that question. And so I went back and I said, thanks for nothing, man. And he said, well, I marked out. Brett did. He said, well, I marked out. I said, well, I'm glad somebody did, because that was like the worst reaction I ever got in my entire career. So thank God I went back to Impact and was able to have a second chance. Could you imagine if that was the end?
I can't imagine. Well, we mark out every time you join us, Mr. Penzer. This is always a pleasure.
Oh, I love it. I'm happy to do it anytime. Me, I like to tell stories, especially about myself and the people I work with and the people I become friends with, and so the experiences I've had. So yeah, it's fun. I tend to ramble, but I guess that's what a ring announcer does.
Except when announcing Cope.
That's a tough one. And, it was just a thought I had. And again, like I said, Capetta kind of smartened me up to it. I knew it was awkward, but when he pointed it out, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It's like I didn't realize it was these one syllable names that is why it sounds so awkward. I just knew it sounded awkward and didn't put two and two together. But yeah. So I just thought, hey, when that all went down, I thought I'd smarten everybody up and give a little knowledge. And I think I put a little plug to davidpenzerbook.com and, maybe sold the book or two.
Well, we hope you sell a bunch of books tonight. I know I'll be ordering one once I get through the queue of books I got for Christmas. But I'll be going over to davidpenzerbook.com and grabbing volume 2 because I already have volume 1.
I appreciate that. We're working on, I didn't realize what a big deal to some people audiobooks are. So we're working on the audiobooks. If you can see in my office here, there's a whole studio. Guy set a whole studio up. And so I've been working on that. And so for those people who prefer audiobooks, then I'll be telling you my story here sometime soon.
Oh, well, we look forward to it. At David Penzer on Twitter, davidpenzerbook.com. Be sure to give him a follow. Be sure to grab both volumes if you haven't already. Again, just the stuff in the back of the book. The stories are fantastic, but all the run sheets and the scripts, super duper fascinating stuff for volume 1. I can't wait to check out volume 2. David, this has been an absolute pleasure tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Anytime you want to come back on and we can dissect a bad Brian Myers match or something, we'd love to do it.
No such thing.
Well, I'm trying to come up with something cute that has the system in it, but I'm not. It's eluding me. So I'll just I'll drop that. I thought if I could come up with something cute, but yeah. But yeah, I still to this day don't know why Wikipedia was such a big deal. But
that's just a bunch of humps, Dave. Don't listen to them.
Bunch of marks, you fucking mark toy figure guys.
Yeah, playing with toys as adults. What the fuck's wrong with them?
They're making a lot of money doing that. I need to get them to do one of me. I had tried to get them to do it. They're like, nobody's gonna buy a figure. I'm like, He's like, if you pay the money down, we'll do it and give you all the profit. I'm like, how much does it cost? And we actually had that conversation. I had a couple drinks in me. We all did. We had a couple drinks in us, but I said, so I know that like most people don't want it, but like say that there's like 100. How much does it cost to make 100? And like say like 50 of them are family and close friends. And he told me, and I said, so you want to take a risk? And they go, no. You know, a lot of that was ribbing me, but some of that was a shoot, I'm sure. And I said, so how could I get it done? And they said, you could put up the money. And it was a lot of money to produce only 100. That was the problem. So, you know, if you produce 1,000, it's a lot cheaper. Well, it's more money, obviously, but it's a lot cheaper per item. Right. So,
yeah, for sure.
Years ago, I had somebody. Hold on. Oh, I'm on camera here. I'll take a picture and put it on. Some time ago, I paid like some guy $20 who did custom figures, and it's a cool little thing. It has the WCW logo and the Nitro logo and me in a tux. But the only problem is it looks like Joe. I look like Joey Maggs, jumping Joey Maggs.
The last thing I thought we'd get in a David Penzer interview was a jumping Joey Maggs reference. Hell yeah.
I look exactly. I mean, if Joey Maggs had an action figure, it would be me, except it wouldn't have a tuxedo on. But it's still cool. I have it up in my office, and people see it, and they think it's, oh, you got an action figure? Well, no, I'm a mark. I paid $20 to have somebody make it for me.
Well, awesome, David. We're marks for you, and we appreciate you taking time out.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And look, we're all marks. We wouldn't be doing this if we weren't.
100%.
So yeah, we're all marks, and we all love the business, and you know, luckily we're in a time right now where we're all able to do this and talk openly about what we like and what we don't like, and that, you know, that WWE could put on a video before the first Netflix show where they acknowledge that this is telling stories and the history of it, and you could actually use the word heel and babyface without like the world ending. So, you know, it wasn't that way when I first got into business. So it's come a long way. You know, people like you and even me, until I finally got my foot in the door and earned my spot, and even after that, for some people, were looked down upon. They're just a bunch of fucking marks. Fuck them. You know, even though they pay you know, they buy the tickets and they buy the videos and they might buy a T-shirt of yours. That's the way that they were looked at. It was just a different world. And I'm glad, you know, I don't love everything about 2025 as far as how the world has evolved, but I really like that you know, everybody's part of everybody's part of it. You know, I love these almost more than the pay-per-views. I love these post press conferences where, you know, the people could ask you know, Paul Levesque question about the future and all that, and you know, I find it very interesting. If you'd have told when, and I love Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, I grew up watching Dusty Rhodes. I'm not saying this negatively about Dusty Rhodes, but anybody in the industry, Dusty Rhodes, Eddie Graham, Ole Anderson, Vince McMahon Sr., even Vince McMahon Jr., Fritz Von Erich, if you'd ask any of those guys, hey, we got a big show come on now. Afterwards, will you let a bunch of reporters in and that are wrestling reporters and ask questions? They would have been like, you're fired. I mean, it's just the concept that at that point, you just didn't do it. Didn't happen. You didn't think about it. It didn't make any sense even. So we live in a different world, and it's good that, you know, a bunch of marks like us can sit around shooting shit. Sorry, I probably went long. I apologize. DavidPenzerBook.com.
David, you're the best. Anytime you want to come on and hang out and shoot the shit with us, you have an open invitation.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about the book. We can talk about you know, Raw and Dynamite or something. I don't care.
Hell yeah,
definitely
David,
Dynamite.
Anytime you want to come back on,
we'll make it work. I'll stay in touch, guys.
Thank you, David. Enjoy the rest of the night.
I said hello and tell him thank God that I introduced him, because it took the heat off of me. Jesus.
We will make sure to mention it.
Seriously, that was the flattest crowd response out of probably 2,000, 3,000 shows I've done in my life, if not 5,000. It was like, sometimes silence isn't bad, but like sometimes it's like bad heat. It was like bad heat. People are like, "Who the fuck are you, and why are you in the ring?" No, I'm not kidding. Ask him about it.
I know. I don't mean to laugh. It's so fucking terrible.
It's a good thing I don't get my feelings hurt. And I entertain Brett. So anyway, all right, guys, take care.
David, have a great night. David Penzer on Twitter, davidpenzerbook.com. Grab those books. They make a treat yourself. It's the holidays are over. You probably gave gifts to everybody. You just want to read a nice wrestling book while it's chilly out here in the Northeast. Cuddle up on the couch and read a little David Penzer book.
That's right.
Sitting ringside. 1 and 2.
If you got an Amazon gift certificate for
Did you?
That was him, bro. That was all him.
That was fucking awesome.
That was all